All right, Peter, thank you so much for having us at your place here in Brazil. It's a pleasure to meet you to speak about some gear in general. And so you are taking care of all the equipment at Elevate?
Yes, basically it's me, but also I work together with a team, and in total at Elevate, everybody is a water sportler and a water sport woman or man. And so we work as a whole group, as a team, also in the evaluating product development, and then until product goes to the final stage. But yes, I am kind of, my main responsibility is product development.
All right. As I was mentioning off camera, I've never talked really about gear and equipment in my channel because I don't want to say something wrong, and I feel like it's a very technical field. And so it's really a pleasure to have you today to speak about some things that I feel a lot of people don't know, and I feel like it will be very interesting. So we'll have a few video together, but the first one, I wanted to do this one for a while. It's like the urban legend of kite surfing. I hear a lot of people, because having a kite school, I meet a lot of kite surfer with all level. And a lot of the time people say, oh, Pierre, I've heard this and this and that. What's your take on this? And most of the time my answer is like, I absolutely don't know. So maybe you have some answer to give us. And if you wish, let's start with the first urban legend.
Okay.
So the first urban legend is that washing your kites with like clear water or fresh water could be very dangerous if you store it over an extended period of time because it can mold. What's your take on this?
Well, okay. First of all, you should store the kite dry, not wet. So it doesn't matter if it has been in the seawater or in fresh water. It should be dry when you store it, when you roll it up. That's not always possible when it rains, but then as soon as it's possible, you should dry it.
Okay.
Then when the kite has been a lot in seawater, it's you drop the kite on the kite school where it gets in contact with seawater all the time. You should rinse it with fresh water.
Okay.
Because the problem is the salt. Okay, the salt stays in the materials. Salt has the property of being hydroscopic. So basically, it sucks humidity.
Okay.
So, and when the humidity always stays on the kite, and the kite, which is very salty, is always wet. It's always humid.
Okay, I understand.
And then the coating will break down quicker. Basically also like a t-shirt when it's wet. It's like more stretchy.
Okay.
You can feel that in the performance of the kite. So a kite should be dry.
All right.
But a salty kite can never be dry because it's always attracts
understand
humidity.
And it will damage maybe the stitching, or because the canopy.
Not so much the stitching, but mainly the resins and the coatings of the material and the fiber itself.
Okay.
So it's better to, let's say, every couple of sessions when you drop the kite, just rinse it with fresh water and then dry it as a some rule.
So just to be clear, once it's been rinsed with clear water, it's very important to dry it very well.
Yes.
What's your take on the molding thing? Like, it's been stored with a little bit of a wet canopy or something like that. Can it mold?
Well, in some circumstances, it might be molding. I never had the kite being with mold spots, but it's, as said, it's always better for the coating, for the resins to be completely dry and not being stored wet.
So that's a very clear answer already. Yes, if you are storing your kite for an extended period of time, you should rinse it. And but the most important is that it's pretty dry, and it cannot be dry if it's full of salt.
Correct.
All right. So the next question, and it's always a little bit funny. I always have people pumping up their kites, and it's usually like the lighter rider pumping the small kite, and they're very scared to overinflate. And I always tell them, but I don't know if it's true. Yeah, do not worry about that. You need a kite that is pretty hard to have the best performance out of it. Do you really think that you could really overinflate a kite with a manual pump and damage it?
It's difficult with a manual pump to inflate and overinflate the kite. It's difficult. But if you, let's say, inflate it to, let's say, 10, 11, 12 psi, which is possible with a manual pump.
Yeah.
Then you put, and it's a big kite, let's say 12 meter and up, and then you put it on hot sand, on a bead, and you just let it rest there.
Okay.
So then, of course, the air will expand due to the temperature, and the pressure will increase, and that then can create, a stress on certain seams or materials, whatever it used in that specific product,
Okay.
which is not good. So you should keep the kite in the inflation pressure in the recommended range, and you should not have it exposed too much to sun, all day long. With a normal, to boil down to that question, it is hard to overinflate with a normal pump.
So if you are a very big guy, for example, you put a lot of body weight on your pump, and then you put it on a very hot area, then it could explode theoretically.
Yeah, it could explode, but only theoretically. And in our kites, I have not actually seen it. And we have about, did the test. We can inflate it with 20, 25, 30 psi before anything happened to a seam. So with a normal pump, you make maybe 10 psi.
So that's very interesting, because I see a lot of people, for example, they are like 60 kilo and they barely inflate their kite, and they're very scared. Maybe it's the first kite or brand new kite. They're very scared of exploding it, and they would rather ride with a kite that is slightly underinflated. And in my opinion, it's very bad, because if they want the best performance out of their product, sometimes they're buying extra. They pay extra to have like a stiffer material, and then they underinflate it by quite a lot, and it makes no sense to me. Do you agree on that?
Absolutely, 100% agree, because the performance of the product will only be there once it reaches certain, recommended pressure, whatever the product is designed for. Pressure. But also, if you underinflate it, you can actually harm the product, because you will have more deformation.
Right.
And when the kite is deforming or the wing is deforming, that gives additional stress to certain areas. So then you're harming the product by underinflating.
Okay. Now, very interesting. Another thing about pressure and inflation, and I heard that a lot when I was first starting. I hear it a little bit less nowadays, but it's that you should always close the valve of the one pump, because if you put a huge stress on your kite, for example, if you crash your kite very hard, then the air flows towards the end. I see you smiling. You hear this one? Yeah. What's the matter with that?
To be honest, I fly so many different products. Sometimes 5 kites a day to test, and I'm lazy and I don't clip all the struts. So I smile. Maybe I do it wrong, but I also don't crash.
But you don't crash your kite
a lot, So sometimes on purpose, but when you crash, let's say, and this is a problem, and this is why kites sometimes fail, because you have a peak, you have a low peak. Okay, so suddenly you have like a crash and a deformation, and then sometimes a seam can fail. But if you theoretically, if you leave the clips open when you crash it, the air has more space to expand.
Okay.
So I would actually say, theoretically, the opposite. So the kite will not get harmed when you leave all clips open.
Okay, so it would be theoretically better for the airflow to have a huge crash with the valves open, right?
Yeah, to harm the kite. But then again, if something happens, you need to swim in. It's better to have the clips closed.
All right. Okay.
So,
and it's always better to not put hard crash on your kite and develop a steering capabilities to not do that, right?
Absolutely.
But yeah, okay, that's interesting, and it's not something that you're certain about, because you answer that theoretically. So it's not something that is obvious, right?
No, I think you would have to make, let's say, 100 crashes with clips and 100 without clips and see what happens.
Okay.
So I never did that myself, but
very
I say theoretically. But the air volume with clips open is bigger, so any peak will be distributed more evenly throughout the inflatable structure. So, and from that point, I'm quite certain.
Okay. Next urban legend. If you have a knot on your kite line, you should absolutely remove it, because it reduces the resistance of your line.
Yes, I mean for sure. When you still can remove it, and even if it's really tight, you should remove the knot. One thing is the knot shortens the line, so you will have an uneven line.
Yep.
To the other one. And then a knot. What's happening? You have the dynamic. Our lines are made from SK99 Dyneema fiber, and so the fiber doesn't like to be bent.
Okay.
You know? So, and in a knot, the fiber is bent and tight, pulled tight, and the Dyneema fiber does not like that.
So it does affect the
It does
resistance.
affect the break strength.
Okay.
But then again, not in a way that you can't kite with that. When you kite on a surfboard or free riding on a twin tip, it's no problem. A guy who's doing big air, jumping 10, 15, 20 meters high, I would definitely recommend don't use the kite line with a knot in it, because it has a lot of load on those lines, and it needs to be safe.
And sometimes I don't know if it makes sense, but like heavy rider, they are most likely to use a big kite in strong wind, so it makes everything worse, right? So if you are a girl, you are 50 kilo and you're using a 9 in 15 knots, nothing will happen. But if you're a big guy with a 10 square meter in 30 knots, then
Exactly. So because when you have like a 90 or 100 kilo guy, let's say, you're jumping, you're a good rider,
yeah,
jumping 15, 20 meter, I don't know, you have maybe your G4 forces on it, and then you have 400 kilos of load easily. So,
but then if the knot is in your front line, good luck removing it. Huh?
yeah, better remove it before.
yeah, definitely. All right. Another one I heard, it's the same. I heard it a lot at first, and now I don't hear it a lot nowadays. But it was that idea that a kite is firstly designed for a certain size. For example, a kite designer is designing a kite for an 8 square meter. And then from that development, they are developing the other sizes from that size. So I don't know if it makes sense, but certain size would be better because they would be optimized, and the other side would be deducted from that first development. I don't know if it makes sense.
Yes and no. Well, in the development process, for myself, I start normally, if it's a new product, which has not been on the market, like it's a bit different. If it's or if it's a successor product, when you go to a second, third, fourth, fifth revision. Now with the RS, for example, we go into the 9th revision.
Yeah.
But for a new product, for example, I start with one size, just to check the DNA of the product, if it meets the product brief specification.
What size would it be, for example? An 8 or 9?
It depends a bit what kind of product, but yeah, 9. I normally use a 9 for a new product. And once that DNA is more or less fixed, let's say to 50%, then I do like a size up and size down, and do the same process with those sizes.
All right.
And then later on, you fill all the sizes how whatever sizes this product lineup has. But and this is the thing, it's very important that every kite that is developed is really trimmed well and is in harmony with all its parameters. This is one of the most important things. And I have now more than 20 years of experience doing exactly that. So I know exactly what people refer to, and this is something for a professional kite designer needs to be capable of, and needs to be able to eliminate any flaws in any sizes. That is a very crucial.
All right, so you would not say one specific size in a lineup is have a better design than other size?
No, not in my lineups. So I bring, it's nothing is scaled. Everything is precisely trimmed in its designated size and use. But yes, you start with 1 or 2 sizes, and then you slowly go throughout the whole range.
All right.
In new products, in existing products, when it's a successor product, I normally then go make 3 or 4 sizes all at once in the beginning, where I implement all these new features, and then go into the gaps.
Understand.
So it's a little bit like getting the full picture and then going into the gaps sizes, and with a new product starting somewhere in the core size and then moving out.
All right. One final urban legend, and this one is a little bit of a funny one. It goes way back to the early days of kite surfing when a lot of the rider was aiming towards unhooked freestyle riding.
Yeah.
And they were saying that the board handle could affect the popping capabilities of the board. And sometimes it was funny because you had some guys starting their first tricks and they were already thinking about taking out their handle. Have you heard about that?
Well, my unhooked kiting time is probably also more than 20 years ago. So, and yes, I remember that.
You remember that urban legend though?
Yes. So people, and also they didn't like to have handles, it looked kooky.
Yeah.
So it was, I think it was a bit both. It was a fashion, all right. It was maybe the argument of the board flex and pop was more influenced by the fashion.
All right.
I think.
So you're saying that it didn't really matter from your experience?
Yeah, but I didn't have a handle on my unhooked board.
All right. And we all had a board short over our wetsuit.
Yeah, no, I did not I did not go that far, but
I have to admit that I did actually. But those times are over, and that's probably for the best actually.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for this video. I think it was very, very interesting. And everybody knows eventually a little bit more about their gear and the kite surfing world in general. We'll have a series of other videos with Peter. We'll talk about the new material, the new equipment in kite surfing, and also how you build a lineup. So if you guys are interested, stay tuned, and thank you for watching.